Arguably MASH's greatest ever episode is remarkably light on jokes, but with good reason. Despite being set during the Korean War, CBS viewed MASH as a sitcom first and wanted the showrunners to avoid overt political commentary or serious topics. Naturally, straying into those areas is precisely what made it so groundbreaking, with the show mixing laughter with heartbreak on a regular basis. Across MASH's 11 seasons, the show changed dramatically, becoming one of the first real dramedies on television. MASH was also one of the first sitcoms to drop the laugh track, which the show's creators always despised. Despite being acclaimed for dramatic outings like Abyssinia, Henry, or Goodbye Radar, that's not to take away from the fact it was often hilarious. MASH's ensemble, led by Alan Alda as Hawkeye Pierce, was incredible, and there's a reason audiences kept returning to them for 11 years. MASH's finale is the most watched scripted TV episode ever, a record that's now practically impossible to beat. MASH Season 4 finale, The Interview, is one of the show's most acclaimed. The Interview is MASH at its finest. Alan Alda as Hawkeye in MASH Season 4 finale The Interview. The showrunners like to experiment with the show's formula, such as Alda's divisive Season 8 outing Dreams, or Season 4's Hawkeye. The latter MASH episode only featured one main cast member in Alda, with the story unfolding like some bizarre stand-up routine. That's another outing some viewers find divisive, but MASH's Season 4 finale, The Interview, is commonly cited as the best the show ever produced. The Interview involves war correspondent Clete Roberts arriving at the 4077th unit to interview the key players, including Hawkeye, Honeycutt, Mike Farrell, and Radar, Gary Berghoff. The episode gives a real insight into the main characters, with The Interview being more solemn by nature. Hawkeye cracks wise throughout his interview, but Alda plays him with more vulnerability. This includes a story about waking up and wondering why his cot is shaking, only to realize it's because his heart is beating too fast. Honeycutt reveals he used to be repulsed at the sight of blood but can now walk past wounded men without noticing them, while Colonel Potter, Harry Morgan, is almost reduced to tears talking about how much his people mean to him. The Interview marked the end of an era for MASH. MASH said goodbye to one of its key creators. Off-screen, Gelbart was starting to feel tapped out from the stress of running the show and thinking of new ways to challenge himself, via Foundation interviews. With The Interview, Gelbart picked the perfect exit point, both in executing its unique concept and coaxing great performances from the cast. The Interview was the end of an era for MASH, though the series survived for another 7 seasons. Why Margaret is absent from MASH's The Interview. Houlihan is totally absent from this key episode. Loretta Swift as Margaret in MASH, a custom image by Simone Ashmore. Sadly, Loretta Swift's Margaret is missing from The Interview, and isn't even mentioned by the other interviewees. This is because Swit was busy starring in a play called Same Time, next year when The Interview was being filmed. What's interesting is that The Interview marked the final time Swit doesn't appear on the show, with the actress appearing in every single episode from that point on until the season 11 finale. Why The Interview is presented in black and white. The Interview's inspiration explained. MASH season The Interview. One element of MASH's The Interview that makes it feel so distinct is its black and white look, with nearly the entire episode lacking color. This was an intentional choice to make it feel like a wartime documentary that could have aired on television during the 1950s. According to a MASH oral history at THR, the look of The Interview was inspired by an episode of documentary series See It Now. This involved host Edward R. Murrow traveling to Korea to interview soldiers during the war, with The Interview trying to evoke the same mood.